to have joining me this morning our good friends from Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. Honestly, it helps that their team keeps growing and expanding, knowing that we have all these dedicated team members that are committed to defending our freedoms and liberty, although at the same time it's sort of disturbing that so many people have now joined Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, because we have to remain ever vigilant with regard to our government and even entities in which, that are supposed to have our best interests at heart. And Cara Tolliver, who is an attorney with Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, is joining me this morning to talk about the investigation into Cleveland Clinic and these discriminatory healthcare programs that that are being evidently imposed, influenced, mandated. I don't know if those are the correct terms by the Biden-Harris administration. Good morning, Cara. How are you?
Good morning, Meg. I'm great. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. For a Monday, we're hanging in there, right? We were talking about that off air.
Absolutely. All you can do, right?
Yes, well, just an extra day is all we need, right?
Extra day to the weekend.
Indeed.
So with respect to the Department of Health and Human Services and Cleveland Clinic, recently, Will was notified that HHS has initiated a federal investigation into Cleveland Clinic after reviewing a complaint that Will filed on behalf of our client, Do No Harm, concerning certain racially discriminatory patient programs. So this means that the Department of Health and Human Services has determined that it has sufficient authority and cause to further scrutinize Cleveland Clinic's minority stroke program and minority men's health center. And as you may recall from our discussions before on the topic, both of these special programs would be great programs because they tout, numerous benefits and assistance for addressing stroke, diabetes, men's health conditions, mental health issues, a lot of top conditions that are killing Americans or that Americans struggle with. The problem, however, is that these patient programs are limited to certain racial minorities and segregated on the base, which violates anti-discrimination laws under Title VI and the Affordable Care Act. So hopefully HHS's decision to open an investigation here is a step forward to eliminating unlawful uses of race in healthcare.
So do you think that this is a brazen disregard for the law, or are these people just incompetent when it comes to grasping how racist and, I guess I'll just say discriminatory these programs are?
Yeah. Unfortunately, so the Constitution has long forbid the use of racial preferences, and it's forbid actors like the Cleveland Clinic who are accepting federal assistance to run their healthcare programs. But yet we've seen racial preferences being injected into nearly every aspect of decision-making, business, education, and unfortunately healthcare has not been spared. But in the healthcare context, racial identity politics are particularly problematic and dangerous because we're talking about treatment and care and potentially life and death. So, imagine if we forced other racial health disparities or focused on other racial health disparities, because health disparities aren't unique to any one race. So, on the other side of the black-white disparity, for example, whites are more likely to suffer from Parkinson's, type 1 diabetes, skin cancer, cystic fibrosis, osteoporosis, MS, just to name a few. Should Cleveland Clinic open an MS or an osteoporosis clinic for white people? Of course not. Healthcare should be focused on providing treatment and for all patients, regardless of their race. So this illustration is exactly why the Constitution has long forbid racial discrimination and segregation, and that's what this complaint is all about.
Do you have confidence? Anytime I see a federal entity opening an investigation I'm just a tad bit cynical, and I don't have a lot of confidence that, because sometimes I think that the federal agencies are part of the problem to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, and we're talking about a Biden-Harris administration opening this investigation. So are we a little surprised, perhaps? But we'll just kind of have to wait and see how things pan out here. Unfortunately, the Biden-Harris administration has been championing its so-called racial equity agenda as a cornerstone priority for the last 4 years. And this has been needlessly and illegally dividing Americans on the basis of race. Under the current administration, various race-based programs were created anew and extended. Everything from executive orders to federal agencies to implement racial equity prioritization. We have the Infrastructure Act, which included numerous provisions for implementing and continuing race-based action. Similarly, the American Rescue Plan. A number of these initiatives will challenged successfully in federal court. But for now, we'll kind of just have to see what happens here. And regardless of what HHS decides or Cleveland Clinic determines to do, because they could still determine to voluntarily cease these programs at any time. Regardless of what either of them do, though, this is a topic that is worthwhile and a topic that we'll consider to pursue.
Well, and I guess, forgive me for being a cynic again, but if they hadn't gotten caught, they would persist in, or if they hadn't been called out for these discriminatory programs, they would be continuing. And it leads me to wonder how many more organizations such as, or like Cleveland Clinic, are also offering these, well, I don't even know if offering is the right word, but using these discriminatory practices in their own organizations.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Unfortunately, Cleveland Clinic is not alone. There are a number of other health systems that have similarly implemented programs that likewise discriminate and either segregate or exclude patients on the basis of race. Mayo Clinic provides a variety of minority health and wellness programs for prenatal care and cancer, among other conditions that some of their programs address. For certain racial minorities, Children's Hospital in Colorado has a Black Health Initiative focusing on maternal health care for Black persons. Actually, Black maternal health care is a big focus across the United States. In general, many hospitals have programs focusing on these groups specifically. And, nobody is saying that folks that need care shouldn't be given the care that they need. It's just that they shouldn't be given care based on the color of their skin. Open the programs up to people who need the care in a race-neutral way.
Should be colorblind. And I think that's, when it boils right down to it, the Hippocratic Oath that all those health professionals swear to take is supposed to be first do no harm. And so if they are indeed excluding certain people based on the way that they look on the outside, that in and of itself is a violation of the Hippocratic Oath.
Yeah, it's a violation of a lot of things. And, that's really the problem. You've kind of hit the nail on the head there. The problem with race-based health equity initiatives and health equity initiatives generally is that these approaches are relying on broad stereotypes about race to assume needs, and they are inherently overlooking individuals who are in need or who would benefit from this special care. And, not only is this illegal, but in healthcare, it erodes the ability of the healthcare system to effectively address the health conditions, and that undermines patient safety and quality.
So what, do you have a certain, or at least a relative amount of confidence that Cleveland Clinic will end these discriminatory programs based on this now federal investigation?
Well, we'll kind of just have to wait and see what happens here. I mean, for the time being, HHS has opened this investigation. So, as far as next steps, the agency is going to continue sort of collecting and analyzing relevant evidence and information before it makes any determination on the complaint that will file. If HHS determines that Cleveland Clinic's patient care programs are racially discriminatory in violation of Title VI and or the Affordable Care Act, it can require Cleveland Clinic to implement a plan of correction to remedy its violations, which could be something as simple as just opening up the programs the way that they should have in the first place, so that they are not discriminating or segregating on the basis of race. In the event of a violation, though, if the agency would be, for whatever reason, unable to secure Cleveland Clinic's voluntary compliance with anti-discrimination law, the agency could secure compliance through suspending or terminating federal financial assistance. And this is funding that typically makes up a sizable portion of a health system's overall budget. So not something that healthcare systems are usually willing to part with or jeopardize. So we'll just kind of have to see what happens here. But as I said, regardless of what the agency decides to do, Will plans on continuing to pursue the underlying issue here.
Well, and I hate to be, again, cynical, but it would, well, if the Cleveland Clinic behaves anything like the Democrat Party, what they will probably try to do is wordsmith their existing programs to make it seem as if they're no longer discriminatory. And I presume that these are all programs that are available or offered to they're offered to non-whites. So the whites are the ones that are being excluded. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, typically these programs are aimed at, certain, not even all minorities for that matter. So, I mean, like their stroke program is geared towards African Americans and Latinos. So it kind of depends on the particular program that we're talking about, but those are two groups that have been highlighted in the scope of the Cleveland Clinic complaint.
So, based on past history of Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, have you had, the desired outcome of any of your, sternly worded letters or, whatever, if you have to file a lawsuit, you do so, but is that you just want to, in this case, you want to make these programs fair for everyone. Do you, looking back at previous investigations that the federal government has conducted, I shouldn't say it that way. Has the federal government ever conducted an investigation of an organization that you have, called out with regard to these types of issues? Or is this the first one of its kind?
This particular challenge, looking at a health equity program with HHS, to my knowledge, is the first one of its kind. So I don't have any previous track record to really compare it with. Not that there hasn't been other complaints filed with HHS for potential individual discrimination, but just calling it out on the basis more broadly with respect to a health equity program generally. Yeah, this is the first one I'm aware of its kind for this sort of thing.
On the cutting edge you are at Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. Anything else you'd like to add, Cara, to, your efforts with regard to this? You know what, I'll say this. If you don't have anything else to add, just share with our listeners if they come across some sort of, freedom robbing, liberty robbing behavior from an organization or even a government entity. How can they get a hold of Will for you to potentially provide legal representation?
Yeah, we're always happy to hear from individuals as to what's going on out there. We keep tabs on current events and news, but it's always a great source of information when people are experiencing things directly to give us a call. You can go on our website, will-law.org. We have a form on there if you want to request legal assistance or just loop us into something that has kind of hit your radar. So more than happy to look into those types of requests. But I appreciate you having me on today, Meg, and more to come on this on this issue, I'm sure. So happy to keep updating as things move along.
Yeah, it's job security for you all at Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. I mean, good or bad. I'm just grateful that your team is growing and that you're out there defending us, and that's what's most important. Well, Cara Tolliver, thanks for joining me this morning. I appreciate your time. Keep up the great work and look forward to our next conversation.
All right. Thanks so much, Meg. Talk to you later.
Thank you.